Ugh, guys, considering what movie this is, you know what needs to happen. So I am here to provide to you the untold truth behind the Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, joking aside, I'm happy people love this movie. I, on the other hand, my name is Zack. Welcome back to my channel where I love discussing all brand new things cinema and entertainment, and I really do appreciate you guys clicking on this thumbnail today. I really hope you enjoy your stay, because good God almighty, we're looking at the Amazing Spider-Man. It's time. Yes, in the hype up to the release of No Way Home, I'm reviewing every single Spider-Man movie that I haven't reviewed yet, so we knew this was coming. What Sony claimed was the untold story behind the iconic web slinger. It's finally time to debunk that. This one was directed by Marc Webb. No pun intended. This is the guy who's brought you some amazing indie films like 500 Days of Summer and Gifted especially. I love Gifted. It's so underrated. And as you know, this does star Andrew Garfield as Peter Parker / Spider-Man. And Peter has been abandoned by his parents and raised by Aunt May and Uncle Ben, and he's trying to sort out who he is and exactly what his feelings are for his first crush, Gwen Stacy, played here by Emma Stone. And when Peter finds a mysterious briefcase that was his father's, he pursues a quest to solve his parents' disappearance. And his search takes him all the way to Oscorp and the lab of Dr. Kurt Connors, played by Rhys Ifans. And this all sets him up on a collision course with Connors' alter ego, the Lizard. So look, I gotta be honest with you guys, I've seen this movie a small handful of times now, and I honestly don't see how people see this as an improvement over the Raimi trilogy. Now, I may be a little biased as someone who grew up with the Raimi films, but like I said, I gotta be as objective as possible when I approach these reviews. And in examining this film for what it truly is, I've discovered that it feels like a movie that's more so a product trying to sell me something rather than just full-on entertaining me. And I really do hate saying that because I do know a lot of people who love this movie, and the effort is clearly being put in by these performers and these filmmakers. Because, you know, despite the dark, drab colors for a colorful character like Spider-Man, Marc Webb does do a decent enough job with the direction. The POV camera movements going right along with swinging around the city was such an eye-opening experience on the big screen. And to be honest, there is one aspect of The Amazing Spider-Man that I really appreciate above all else in this film: the romance. This is what I wished Peter and MJ were doing in Spider-Man 3, because Peter and Gwen actually feel like a real couple facing their problems head-on together as a team. And their chemistry together is downright fantastic. Precious, as a matter of fact. I give them credit for how it only took them half of one movie for Peter to reveal to his significant other of his true identity. So bonus points for that, at least. Emma Stone, I think in particular, is phenomenal as Gwen Stacy. Top of her class, extremely intelligent, the daughter to the police captain, played wonderfully by Denis Leary, by the way. It's a really sound character that's developed here. And let's just say that this intelligence will completely dwindle by the sequel. Now let me talk about Andrew Garfield for a minute. As Spider-Man when he's in the super suit, I thought he was very entertaining. The script overall does feel like it was appealing to the fan base who didn't think Tobey Maguire made enough quips, and Garfield certainly has those in spades. The carjacking scene admittedly is pretty hilarious, and I thought the action in this movie was fairly good. The school scene, the school fight, very, very fun, with an excellent Stan Lee cameo. But there's one character dynamic that I'd really like to praise in more detail because I really don't hear enough people talking about it. It's the dynamic between Peter and Captain Stacy, played by Denis Leary. The debates they share at the dinner table is honestly one of my favorite scenes in the entire film. He faces the police captain head on. Maybe Spider-Man isn't a menace. Which, speaking of, Captain Stacy kinda does take on the more dramatic Jameson route in trying to get Spider-Man off the streets by deeming him a menace. But then, the climax at Oscorp Tower when Peter reveals his identity to the captain, and better yet, he says his daughter is in trouble, their team up feels earned and built up. Good God, everything else really does not feel earned. Now, the studio was marketing this back in 2012 as the untold story of Spider-Man, and that must certainly mean there's no Uncle Ben in this movie, right? No! Even though Martin Sheen does a fairly great job with his material, this script really doesn't help make his character stand out. You know, aside from changing around the "with great power comes great responsibility" speech, 6 words turning into 21. And I understand why they did it to make it sound different from the Raimi films, but it just comes off so contrived here. And speaking of Uncle Ben's death, Peter pretty much abandons the search for his uncle's killer about halfway through. I know what you're thinking. Some people might praise this as the writers wanting to try something different. You know, rather than just seeking revenge outright, he's going out to help people. But the way they went about it, it just feels like a gigantic loose end that was not tied off whatsoever. Now, I talked about Andrew Garfield being great as Spider-Man when he's in the suit. Him as Peter Parker, on the other hand, leaves a lot more to be desired. He comes off very much like a punk rather than a geek. Peter Parker should never be skateboarding down the school hallways, and he definitely should not have the Miz-like gel in his hair, because then it looks like someone who shouldn't be bullied. This kid is kind of arrogant, actually, humiliating Flash on purpose, talking to girls in passing. You're sure this isn't just emo Peter again? And another thing, guys, I talked a little bit about him being great in the suit. The super suit itself is atrocious. Now, I know what you guys might be thinking. Oh, Zack, Peter's just a poor high schooler. If he doesn't have Tony Stark's money, how can he afford to make these amazing suits? And you'd be right, but if he's not under Tony Stark's tutelage, how can this kid afford to make web shooters? Just some food for thought, guys. Now, I have always been a big believer that every movie is only as good as its villain. Here is where The Amazing Spider-Man really takes a nosedive down the rabbit hole and it never recovers. Because this lizard, man... My word, this movie makes such a mess of his plotline. Let me just reiterate that Rhys Ifans does a fairly good job as Dr. Connors, but there were so many things that were cut from this movie that I really feel like would have helped his development out tremendously. Like the development that he's supposed to create this antidote because his boss, Norman Osborn, is dying. But keep in mind that you never meet Norman Osborn in this flick. But because that's a recognizable name, the script is just assuming that because these hardcore fans know who Norman Osborn is, they're immediately going to start caring about Connors' situation. And that's especially where an underutilized Irrfan Khan comes in, and may the dude rest in peace. He was such a talented actor. It's a crime that he vanishes from this movie around the third act. No, but there's a bunch of scenes where he's like, hey, Norman Osborn is dying, and you need to create this. You need to do it quickly. And then I'm sitting there like, okay, is that it? Is that the kicker? No, because the big kicker is Dr. Connors has a son. Yeah, you probably didn't know that, did you? Because that scene is actually deleted from the final product, and now there's no development. That would be like if in Spider-Man 3, the scene where Flint goes to visit his daughter Penny, which is one of the more moving scenes of that movie. Imagine if that scene was deleted. Well, then Flint Marco would have been pretty underdeveloped himself, wouldn't he? And then, oh my god, guys, this evil plan, which might I add, horrendous exposition dump revealing this evil plan. Peter literally just walks into the lizard's lair and there's a gigantic pile of it waiting for him. But the evil plan in this movie is curiously insanely dumb. It's basically to turn all of New York into lizard creatures. And it really does feel like once his main motivation of regrowing his arm is finished, once he has what he wants, the movie has no idea what to do with him. And they have to keep him in there because of the big beam in the sky, and it's almost inexcusable how forced this evil plan is. And yeah, I did see him in the trailer for No Way Home, and all I can really say is, let's just hope that that script redeems him. The last thing I want to mention is this. Captain Stacy's final wish for Peter was to keep Gwen out of his business, which basically means that Peter and Gwen cannot date anymore. But the way this film concludes and going into the sequel, Peter immediately reneges on that. You know what? I'm glad that there's people out there that dig this movie. Obviously, I'm not one of them. I'm gonna give The Amazing Spider-Man a C-. Overall, it's not the worst Spider-Man movie I've ever seen, but way too overrated for its own good. At least it holds the fact that it's better than its successor. Yikes. Stay tuned for full thoughts on that very soon, guys. But let me know what you think of Amazing Spider-Man down in the comments section below. Hot takes only, because as you know, I love creating this content. I love discussing all new things cinema, all things geeky in the entertainment realm. If you guys are new to the channel, I would recommend smashing that subscribe button down below as hard as you possibly can. This channel is on the road to 1,000 subscribers, a number I'm hoping to reach very soon. Subscribing is not only beneficial to the channel and myself, it's also beneficial to you guys. You'll be the first ones in the know whenever a new upload hits the channel. Not to mention, it's also completely free. And don't forget, guys, smash that thumbs up button on your way out. That would be some tremendous help. And stay tuned for some more exciting content hitting this channel very, very soon. Definitely very excited to check out both West Side Story and Don't Look Up this weekend. And I'll also be finishing off my Spider-Man series of reviews in the build-up to No Way Home, finally releasing on the 17th. I'm going to be seeing it on the Thursday night premiere. You're not going to want to miss out on any of this content going into the holiday season, guys. So go ahead and smash that subscribe button and that thumbs up button on your way out. That would be much appreciated. You guys are the best. And with all that being said, back talk commence.